Okay, I'm here with Jake and John, and we are here to talk about Not a Hero, the new game from Roll7, the team behind OlliOlli. Tell us about your new game.
So, Not a Hero is a 2D cover-based shoot-'em-up, where you're a guy called Steve, and you're a part-time unemployed murderer who's working for Bunny Lord, a giant purple rabbit from the future that's trying to become the mayor of town.
So your average, run-of-the-mill, standard story.
Yeah, cut-and-paste story. It's just standard action movie story.
And why the name Steve?
Well, actually, eventually there'll be a bunch of playable characters. None of them are heroes. They all have normal names. So it doesn't matter how cool they are. They've got a name like Clarence or Dave.
And so explain the 2D cover shooter mechanic, because that's not something that many people will have considered before.
Sure. So was a big fan of Gears of War. Kind of always wanted to try and do a cover system in 2D. So you basically got this like ISO slant view, which sort of Jake's developed, which is this kind of like offset angle. Well,
one of the intentions, it's kind of 2D, but then we experimented with different perspectives and kind of decided to combine a few, so it doesn't actually make any sense at all in games and stuff, but it's turned out quite fun apparently.
So we've drawn everything from this weird angle that gives you the ability to you can kind of pop back into the scene a little bit or pop forward in the scene. So you're kind of in a middle, if you imagine it's 3 tracks, you're in the middle track when you're running around and you're in the other 2 when you're in cover, so you move in and out.
I played the demo. I found it quite difficult. I died a lot.
Yes.
I mean, you're renowned for making games with the stern challenge. Put it like
nice way
that.
of putting it.
There we go. So is that? I mean, obviously that's something that you want to continue with Not a Hero.
Yes. I mean, admittedly, probably what you played is harder than it will be when you first start out when it's done. But yeah, the idea is, you aren't a hero. You die very easily. You're pretty much as vulnerable as your enemies, and it's going to stay that way. So yeah, you are going to die a lot.
So the everyman concept, the Not a Hero, was that something that you started with, and then it kind of developed into the cover shooter idea, or did you? Was that something that kind of came along, the title and the idea behind the story and the characters, that come along later?
I guess the title came along later. It was originally going to be a medieval game called Jeffrey Archer, about a guy called Jeffrey with a bow and arrow. And then we kind of drew a guy with a gun and it became Not a Hero. But yeah, being really, really vulnerable, it kind of seemed to make sense that we called it Not a Hero as opposed to Hero.
Jeffrey Archer sounds like a fantastic game. Is there any plans to
No.
bonus level? No?
No.
Lest you end up in court.
It's best we just pretend that game never happened.
A very interesting art style, so I think you're probably the person to talk to. Talk us through kind of the design decisions that went behind how you were going to put the game together and what it was going to look like.
Oh well, it was based off of your early prototype actually. Just as I say, it was 2D, but kind of looking down on it a bit, so you can get that cover moving backwards and forwards. But then, as I came into it, I looked at what he'd done, decided to shift it over to the side a bit. So you have, I'm not sure if it plays a part in mechanics at all. Yeah.
It made it better for the doors and stuff, being able to see those walls and things. Yeah.
So otherwise, yeah, just be going through a wall otherwise. But yeah, and then we're trying to take this approach with really vivid colours throughout. So every world will have its own 1 or 2 colours based around it. So the one we're demoing is mainly pink/purple kind of thing. Just kind of, you don't really get that in games too much. It's always kind of dull colours. And we like the idea of just kind of these in your face, just kind of trying to give people a bit of and kind of putting that back to violence is a lot of fun.
I think my favourite bit about the design was we were having a chat and it was all the buildings in this town are really narrow. Yeah. Do we need to give them depth? And it was maybe the town is just made entirely of really narrow buildings. Yeah, good save, we'll do that. Okay, that's how the town looks from now on.
So as a studio, you've come quite a long way in quite a short time after the success of OlliOlli, which we'll talk about in a minute. How's that journey been, and are you kind of, now you're full-time game devs and you're able to kind of branch out and you've got your second title on the way, how's that kind of changed the dynamic of the studio, and where do you kind of see yourselves moving towards?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I guess it's kind of scary because now, I guess people know us, so if OlliOlli had come out and not been received as well as it had, that kind of doesn't matter, but showing this one for the first time here was a much scarier experience because I think people have come over and been like, "Oh, you're the OlliOlli guys. Let's check out the new game." It's like, okay, I hope you have as much fun.
And have people been having? What's the feedback been like?
I think so. Yeah, I think people have had a good time. Yeah.
So we talked about Not a Hero. The other game that you're here is showing is OlliOlli,
Yes.
which is coming onto some new platforms. It's jumping off the Vita, if that's the right way of describing it.
It's coming. So yeah, it's going to be out on PC, on Steam, and then it's also going to be on PS3 and PS4 as well.
Okay. Do you have and is it all coming out at the same time? Is that all porting over at the same time?
I think so. Yes. Let's go with yes.
Yes. Okay. And we will hold you to that.
It's legally binding now. I've said it.
So both games coming out summer this year.
Yeah. Fingers crossed for Not a Hero. Hopefully late summer. OlliOlli definitely out this summer.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks for having us on, man.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.